Diva hustle show, motivate the glow. We get your more info, flick to my head to toe.
You guys, thanks for tuning in to the Diva Hustle Show. Today I have my guest as Jake. Jake is a magician. He started doing magic at the age of 2, and since then he's been touring around the world and being booked for gigs. Thanks, Jake, for coming and joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm excited. This should be a lot of fun.
Yes. So, what was the first magic trick that you did?
So the first magic trick I ever did, again, believe it or not, this is when I was 2 years old. So I was a super picky eater when I was a little kid. And so my parents came up with this game where they would ask me to make my food disappear. Okay. And that kind of is how I got into magic. And it's actually on camera. My dad took out his old, I guess at the time, I'm motioning as if it's a small camera. Back then it was probably a bigger camera. Right. And, but either way, I would make my food disappear and I would eat it. And so it was kind of a game for them that, got me to eat as a little kid who wouldn't eat. It got me to eat. And for me, I thought I was doing something really cool. So my very first magic trick was not very impressive, but it was still pretty cute as a 2-year-old. But it was eating my food and making it disappear.
Okay. So today, what's your favorite magic trick and why?
That is a great question. I don't know if I have a specific favorite. I'll give you some highlights and ones that we can talk about, but I don't know if I have a specific favorite because what's so great about magic, in my opinion, is the different stories that you can tell with it. And so because of that, there are different parts of my show that will resonate differently with different people. And so afterwards, and that in general is the best reward ever. When somebody comes up to you after a show and they say, hey, I really loved when you talked about this or that. That really resonated with me. That's the best possible feedback that I could get. Right. I will tell you, as a Penn State grad, I have a routine in my show that is all about sports and college football. And but I won't give too much away, but it uses a football jersey as a way to read people's minds. And that is one of my favorite magic tricks because it's so unique to me. I worked on it for a long time. I'm really proud of the routine and the trick as a whole. It was something that was created by me. And so that's probably right now one of, if not my favorite magic tricks.
So how do you create your magic tricks? What goes into the process?
Well, for me, I think about it in sort of two halves of a full trick. So when you see something on stage, it's all cohesive. But for me, when I start writing something, I think about it in terms of what I want to say, the message of this actual magic trick, the story that I want to tell the people who are watching it. And then I think about, okay, well, what's the best actual effect, the best actual magic trick that I can do in order to metaphorically tell that story. And I start out by thinking about it really in those two separate halves. I think about it completely separately. I think about the story and the trick that will best tell that story. And only just before I get to put it on stage do I put those two things together. Okay.
And so how long does it take you to develop? So I understand it's broken down into two stories. So how long does it take you to develop a whole act?
It really depends on the trick. Certain things just come to you, and as the same with anything, when you're working on something, sometimes ideas are just flowing and you're able to knock something out in an hour. But then there have been other times when I have routines that maybe are a little more complicated or just have that missing piece that I can't quite figure out what it is. And those can take months or even years to finally get on stage. I still have ideas that are kind of on my back burner that are good starting points, but I don't exactly know where they're going or they're just missing that little piece. And so I'll kind of sit there. I try not to force anything or rush anything. But I mean, yeah, that's really the answer. Routines and full tricks can probably take anywhere from an hour to multiple years.
Okay. And have you ever goofed up while you were like doing your magic trick and like just took someone somewhere and then they didn't come back?
Oh my God, how much time you got? So many different times. But ultimately, that's how you learn. Everybody starts when you're learning something new. You begin by sucking at it, right? And as you do it over and over again and you learn and you grow and you get better, then you get good at it. I will tell you one time, probably one of my worst mess ups and one of the mess ups that just sticks to me. And even telling the story, I like feel the like everything tightens up, because it was just really painful at the time, because I was doing this routine with one of my friends, and it was at summer camp, and we were able to be a part of this show for the whole camp. They were going to come and watch it, and so we said, you know what, we should make a routine. And so we were working all summer on this routine, and it was based off of an old Penn and Teller trick, but it was kind of our spin on it, and we were working on the method and the routine and the jokes, and we had everything perfectly, and we rehearsed it, and we finally get to do it on stage in front of the whole camp, and I'm maybe 12 at the time, and we do this trick, and the idea is we divided the stage in half, and I was always going to stay on my side, and he was always going to stay on his side. I was going to have someone from my side pick a card, and they would hold on to the deck, and the card was supposed to appear in his mouth on his side without us crossing. Okay. And we get to the big reveal, and he spits out a card, and the whole audience is going, no way, and they're gasping already before the end of it. And he opens it up, and he goes, was this your card? And the guy goes, no. And he's like, what? And he had signed it, so he's like, okay, maybe the Sharpie came off, but that's the right card, right? And he's like, no. And it was so anticlimactic. I did something like really kind of stupid and not nearly as good to try and save it, but I just felt so bad, because afterwards we were like, what the heck happened? And turns out it was completely my fault. I did a secret move that I was supposed to do. I did it wrong, and I completely ruined it for both of us. So that was a rough one, but I've got a ton of stories just like that. And you know what? So does anybody successful has a ton of stories like that too.
Oh yeah. Who's your favorite magician?
Growing up, for me, it was Penn and Teller, and I think it still is. They were really the first people to ever provoke me to question magic and the things that I thought that I knew about magic. And of course, so much of magic is on the secret, and things have to be fooling. Even if you ask Penn and Teller today, they will tell you how important that aspect of it actually is. But the other side of it, the stories you can tell, and questioning, and just seeing how close to that line you can actually get without completely, going over the edge, is something I never thought about experimenting with until I saw Penn and Teller. And they were kind of known as the bad boys of magic for that exact reason, because of how close they would get to that line. And this idea of bucking the norm and trying new things, and going places that nobody thought a magician or magic should be going, is something that really excites me, and it's a big part of my career goals today.
Right. And so you're saying, so what would you say your purpose in following and performing the art of magic is?
I think it's just that. I think for me, if I could, look at an entire career and be able to look back, I want to be able to say that I've taken magic to places it's never been before. And what's amazing about magic is that there is a gigantic database of tools and a phenomenal foundation of information that magicians have at their fingertips. There's thousands of years of magicians that have been recording and documenting and learning all these things. And for me, I want to take those amazing paintbrushes and see how many new paintings I can make with them.
That sounds awesome. And how challenging is making a career in magic?
Well, it's challenging in the sense that you have to be good at what you do. You have to have good magic, but at the same time, you also need to have good business sense, and you need to know how to market and promote yourself in order to, book shows and work with people that you want to work with, and advance within your career. It's an interesting, weird balance that I'm sure any entrepreneur goes through, where you have something good, whether it's a service like me, my service is doing shows, or it's a product, and your thing is good, but there's also that battle of knowing how to market, knowing how to do business, and knowing how to grow your business. And looking at it, of course, I love magic more than anything else in the world. I do it in a cardboard box. But at the end of the day, knowing how to market myself and knowing how to run a business is equally as important. And so that's a big challenge, but it's something that most entrepreneurs can relate to.
And so what advice would you give to someone that's thinking about becoming a magician or starting out in magic?
Well, I would say this: there's a fine, they say there's a fine line between genius and insanity. And for me, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I think being a genius is being willing to do something over and over again until you get it right, but constantly learning and changing each time you give it a new go. And that's the difference. And so really, whether you're a magician or you want to be successful in anything, being open to learning new things and being willing to admit that you don't know it all and always looking to grow and change is how you're going to get over that hump.
Okay. And so what are your future plans with the art of magic?
Really, I just want to do magic for as many people as I possibly can and make as many people smile and happy and make them in the moment and give them that, oh my gosh, feeling that only a magic trick can give you, to as many people as I possibly can. So that's also part of the fun for me, is that, of course, I have shows booked, so I kind of have an idea of where I'll be in the immediate future. But long term, there's so many different things that I can do with magic. And I think part of the fun is not exactly knowing where I'm going to be in 5 years, 10 years from now, but just enjoying the ride either way.
So where can people contact you to book you and get more information about you?
Yeah, well, the best way to keep in touch with me, because I do private shows, but I also have a lot of public shows that are coming up. So to get tickets and things like that, the best way to keep up with what I'm doing is my social medias. And that's at The Magic of Jake Schwartz on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are the main social medias that I use. But also my website is jakeofspades.com.
All right. Thanks, Jake, for stopping past. I enjoy hearing your story and, just learning more about magic. I mean, I would say, I really didn't know too much. I know about the 3-card Monty or whatever.
Yeah.
That's where my magic stopped at. But I love your story and just being able to have the audience learn more about how you can be a magician and still make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And believe me, if I'm doing my 3-card Monty and making money, whatever crazy idea you have, you could find a way to make money at it too.
All right. Thanks again, Jake, for stopping past.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I let the whole world know. Divas forget the dog. The hustle.